Well, here we are again. It's Friday, and it's the weekly video. Today is October 10th, 2025. And not a lot of lots closed last week, but there are a pile of auctions ending in the next week. So we're going to run through just to remind everybody if you've missed or forgotten or maybe you've got it bookmarked over on your live auctioneers account or on Invaluable, and the sales coming up, you don't want to miss it because we've all done it. We've all had things that we've had our eye on. We bookmark them, and then suddenly the sale's over, and it ends up selling sometimes for a lot less money than you would have paid, and it's very, very disappointing thing. The other thing I wanted to mention, this is sort of an unusual thing for me. I got a call today from a very nice lady who had a folio of Japanese block prints, and this is aimed at auctioneers up and down, probably in the East Coast. These were stolen from her house. And there was a folio of 15 or 20 unframed wood block prints, Japanese wood block prints. So if you have somebody, and they were mixed, some of them were quite good. Apparently they were bought at Eldred's many, many, many years ago down on Cape Cod. So if you run an auction house and somebody comes in with a folio of loose prints and wants to consign them to you, check carefully to make sure they're not stolen. Get some information. They were taken in the Boston area by someone. They don't know really who did it, but the woman that called me is pretty certain that they're going to turn up somewhere. Somebody's going to maybe consign them to an auction house. She has reason to believe that. So if you have an auction house and this happens, and they are not all one particular artist, just keep that in mind. That's all. This kind of thing happens once in a while, and it's sad and ridiculous, and we don't want people stealing stuff out of houses. It was somebody that had access to the home and took advantage of it, and she's an elderly person, and I'm kind of furious about it. So anyway, that's just all I have to say on it. If I hear any more about it, I'll let you know. The other thing is that I did go to the Peabody Museum yesterday, and my son Alex came with me, and we filmed the place, and I'll be working on it over the next couple of days. We went through the Japanese department, which is quite exceptional there, and a little bit more in the Korean department, which we covered in another video, but we went back in there, and I wanted to include in it one of my favorite things in their collection, which is a mother of pearl inlaid table with a reticulated base that the museum had acquired back in the 1880s. The Peabody has a very long history of building things into their collection, things that weren't necessarily on the front burner of a lot of our museums at the time. The Peabody was quite a bit ahead of the curve on a lot of that, and it's an exceptional museum, and we're going to do that. And today, right now, I'm going to go through some things that are happening in the next, mostly within the next week or so, and a couple of auctions that have popped up. And just so you know, there are a bunch of auctions that are coming up that are going to be, they're not active yet, but I was checking on Roseberry's and Dreweatts and the firms over in England. In November, as you know, if you've been collecting for any length of time, there are a lot of sales that happen in November in England with all of the very good sort of upper range auction firms, and it looks like they're going to have some pretty good sales, and we're going to cover those as soon as they come up. If you're a Patreon member, you can keep an eye on them because we published over there in the collections area a list of all those auction houses with direct links to them in the EU and auction houses in America too, of course. But these are direct links right to those sites because some of them don't use live auctioneers, some of them don't use Invaluable, and so forth. And it's a particularly good way to keep track of what they're up to. And we're going to go back through those once those auctions start to appear, and we'll preview the sales because there's always interesting stuff that turns up in England in November sales. They always have some good things. William Wallace has a sale coming. There's a whole bunch of them, so it's going to be pretty interesting. But today I want to talk about some of the sales that are closing in the next week or so, and just to give everybody sort of a reminder. One of the things is this, of course, the Sikes sale. Caza Sikes has all of these Ming pieces that we talked about just last week, or a week before. I can't remember. Was it last week or this week? It was last week, I believe. Don't forget, this sale closes in a few days. It ends on we'll get back to the top of the page here. There's a lot of material here. It closes in 4 days and 18 hours. So that would be on the, just pop open a window here and get the closing date. On the 15th of October, there we go. So on the 15th, all of these lots are going to close. So if you've got them bookmarked and you're interested in some of them, put your bids in now. Get them in there. There's some nice Yuan pieces, some early Celadons. There's a lot of provincial Mingware. There's a ton of it. There's some Hongxi chargers in big plates, 12, 13, 14 inches in diameter, and so forth. So if you're a blue and white Ming buyer and you like provincial wares, this is the sale. It's a good-looking sale. Stay away from the two Sung pieces, though, the two Sung Celadons. So far, nobody's bid on either of them, and I don't think they'll sell, but just so you know, okay? The next thing I wanted to mention, this is kind of fun. You remember last week we talked about this auction. This is at Lion and Unicorn. They're a good little auction house, but they had mislabeled a whole bunch of lots. And as I said last week, it was probably because they got some records from the family. Usually that's what happens, and they told them that all this material had come out of the famous Nanking cargo load, because so a lot of the stuff, some of the stuff in here did come from Nanking cargo, these pieces here, but they had accidentally or inadvertently listed these pieces as being also Nanking cargo. And maybe they watched the video last week. I don't know. Maybe they watched the video, but we pointed out that most of these pieces are Korean, and they're very good pieces. There's nothing wrong with them. There's some contemporary Korean pieces at the end of the sale, but they're pretty obvious that they're contemporary. They're nicely done. There's nothing. A lot of the modern Korean art is very good. The Korean ceramicists have really stuck very carefully to the tradition, and that is why today traditional moon jars, for example, made in Korea by certain artists, are sold at Christie's and Sotheby's and Bonhams and other auction houses and bring huge amounts of money. But these are older pieces. These are Goryeo pieces and so forth. I don't think there were any Joseon pieces in here, but there were some Goryeo pieces, which are earlier, of course. And these are a bunch of them, and they've been corrected. The listings have all been corrected, and I think they did a pretty good job with it. So bravo to that. And we'll see how the sale does. And this sale closes, as I said, just a few days on the 15th. All right, and then other things that have turned up on the this was sort of the bargain of the week. This was at Freeman's just the other day, just closed the other day. Was this pair of Chinese reverse paintings on glass? They were both 19th century, and these were big paintings. They were 18 by 24 inches. These were nice in period frames, and these were not copies. I think maybe one of our viewers bought this because somebody had sent an inquiry in through the preview assistant for the auctions on bid amount, and I said to them, I said, no, these are mid 19th century China trade export paintings on glass. And they're reverse paintings. They were very well done, nicely framed. There's nothing wrong with them, and they brought almost nothing. They sold for $600 plus premium for the pair, which is, if you collect China trade stuff, that's a very, very reasonable price, to put it mildly. So somebody got a great buy. There were only 12 people watching the lot. I don't know what happened, why they went so inexpensively, but this was an absolutely great buy, absolutely great. All right, and the other thing, this is another sale that took place. This was also at Freeman's, and I think the mistake on this is a very interesting looking globular jar. They didn't include a picture of the base of this. For some reason, and I can't say it enough. If you are an auction house and you are selling porcelain, Chinese porcelain, and you're not including the pictures of the bases of these pieces, you're leaving money on the table, because some people are gonna get a hold of you and ask for those pictures, and you're gonna give them to them, and they're gonna have inside information. Show the bottoms if you really want to sell things. Don't get lazy. I would rather see one profile shot like this, and then the second one of the base. This one, they showed this, I guess it's because it had a nick out of the foot. I'm not sure. The color of this looked awfully good. And it looked like an 18th century pot to me, based on the texture of the paste and the glaze and so forth. And it's a very unusual form. And it just went for $400, well under the estimate. Well, with the buyer's premium, I guess it got up to the low estimate. But show the bottoms of things. Be thorough. All right. The other thing I want to talk about, I may go back and do a video on this, is that Freeman's in Chicago, I guess this is, has gotten a rug collection. And I noticed a lot of them say property from a private family trust. Okay. And this may be an old, I'm going to try to find out more about it, but this may be an old collection. There are old collections of rugs that were groups of rugs that were bought and put into storage many, many, many years ago. I was once in a moving company in the Boston area, and we were picking up some goods for an auction that we were running. That's where the antiques were being stored. It was one of the big old Boston moving companies had it, and we were in there tagging stuff. And I noticed there was a rack over on the left hand side, and with these cardboard tubes, and they were all filled with rugs. And I thought, boy, those are good looking rugs. And I didn't know whether they were going with what we had or was it something else. So I went over and looked at them, and there were some phenomenal carpets in there, all 19th century rugs, all early bee jars, early Caucasian rugs, all this sort of thing. And they had a tag on them. They'd been put in storage there in 1938 during the Depression. And one of the warehousemen there told me, they said they've been here for 60 years. The law firm in Boston is still paying the rent every month to store them. And there were a lot of them. It wasn't just 4 or 5 rugs. There were about probably 50 rugs in this one rack, in these old cardboard tubes, which they shouldn't have been in because the cardboard's very acidic, but probably didn't do too much damage to them, I don't think. But at any rate, they'd been sitting there for 60, 70 years in this warehouse. And like so many law firms, they've got an account, and people want the stuff stored. They're going to pay the bill each month out of the trust, and that's it. And they just sit there. And that's not uncommon. I once was in a building it was the Cambridge Storage Company on those of you in the Boston area know the one. It's by MIT. And there was this huge warehouse in there. And this was about 1998 or so. And we were in there inventorying some paintings for an auction we were going to be picking up out of an estate. And outside of these giant lockers they had, these were brick-walled rooms that people could rent in these old places. They were probably 600 square feet each. These were big storage spaces with iron doors. But in the hallway, there was a car, and it was a 1970s Ford Granada. And I said to the man, how long has that Granada been there? And he says, it's been here since 1980. And some law firm, some trust department was paying to store, and I think it was $150 a month, or $180 a month at the time. It has been paying storage on that Ford Granada for 40 years. The car was probably worth. It did have some mileage on it. I think it had like 15,000 miles on it or something. But the car wasn't worth the storage bill. We'll put it that way. They were paying $1,800 a year in storage, $2,000 a year in storage for over 30 years. So you never know what you're going to find in a storage place. But at any rate, I want to find out more about this rug collection because there were some pretty good looking Caucasian rugs in there, and there were a lot of them. And some of them, they appear to be in very, very good condition. So we're going to look into this. But this is a sale that's coming. If you want to go ahead and look at it, it's coming up at Freeman's on the 30th of October. The 30th of October, the end of the month. All right, and it's some good looking. If you like Caucasian rugs, it looks like a good load. All right, the next thing up, this is also at Freeman's. They have a whole lot of sales up right now. I just looked this morning. They've got about 7 or 8 sales on deck in the next month and a half. It's amazing how many auctions they've got planned. This is the sale that's coming up on the 15th in a few days of all those armorial pieces, those 18th century armorial export plates that they had. That sale is coming up. And it's getting some interest because there's some awfully good pieces in there. But remember that sale is coming, and if you had planned on bidding on it, you get back to it and take care of that. The next thing up is this. This is at Bonhams. And I think this is out in Marlborough, Mass. This is an online sale. There's some Japanese pieces in there. There's some large lots. Some very large lots. So you might want to go in there and look around. There's some nice looking Arita, some nice looking Amari, and they've got this lot. This is a very curious lot. This is one lot, and I'm a little bit mystified by it. Some of the pieces have repairs and whatnot, but they've listed this as 19th and 20th century. And those of you that have been collecting for any length of time are looking at this saying, wait a minute, there's some 18th century pieces in there too. The small vase in the center, 18th century. The platters, those are 18th century. The big dish here, this massive armorial Nanking dish, is either late 18th or early 19th century. The beaker vases are 18th century. This dish at the bottom looks 18th century. And this dish right here looks particularly interesting. And I wish they included more pictures. It drives me crazy. They don't do that. And it's funny, I spoke to somebody at Bonhams just this week, and I said, tell your people to start using more photographers, taking more pictures. All right. And then you have this pair of Amari pieces in the background, and I'm not sure because you can't tell from the picture. I mean, they look European, but the colors on it look like Japanese Amari. I'm not sure what they are. It would be good if they had pictures of the bottoms of that. And these two big jars with the phoenixes and rondelle. These jars could be early 19th century. They could be early 20th century. There's no picture of the bottom. All right. So this is sort of a disservice to the consignor. I'll just put it that way. There's no other pictures. This is it. Now maybe over on the bottom site they've got a whole bunch of pictures. I didn't get over there to look, but here I don't see them. All right. Well, we'll check it later, but I'm going to suspect they don't. If they have the photos, there's no reason in the world not to include them in all their listings. This is just really crazy. So I don't know why they do that. And Bonhams in particular does that. For a big auction house, it's kind of dumb. It's kind of dumb to do. All right, and then over to this. This is also at Bonhams, and they did include two pictures of this one, thank heavens. This is a very nice late 17th century Amari barber bowl. These were made for usually for the European market. It's got the little drill holes at the top here, so it can be hung, and there's the cutout that fits around your neck when you're getting your shave and so forth. This is a nice bowl. This is a good example, and the estimate's extremely reasonable, $500 to $700. It's got 4 bids. It's only up to $50. It's got 13 people watching it. If you like early Amari, you might want to look at that. That's a pretty good looking piece. All right, and this is also coming up on the 15th. Now, this was a rug that's coming up on the 16th, a Rees. This is at Doyle, New York. We saw how successful the Michael Grogan sale was last week with rugs. Rugs seem to be enjoying a bit of a comeback. This is a wonderful carpet, and this is a big one. It's 11 by 14 feet. That's a very big rug, and it's got as Michael Grogan was calling them. I loved it. He was calling these lobster claws, and that's not an expression you hear much anymore. But this pattern here. But this is a very handsome carpet. I think it's quite beautiful and has a very unusual design. I think it's a very, very nice rug. The estimate is 12 to 18,000, which I think should be in the ballpark, but it's only got a starting price of only $6,000. Now you have always think about when you look at antique rugs, people get confused about the square footage. They'll say, well, a 4 by 6 foot rug is 24 square feet, right? And that rug will sell for, a nice one, say $1,000. Well, this one is a huge rug. It's 11 by 14. So now multiply that out, and you're looking at about 150, 160 square feet of carpet. And its estimate is only $6,000, or the starting price is only $6,000, and it's a $12,000 to $18,000 rug all day long. It's a very good looking rug. There's also a very nice Farrahan Saruk in this sale. But the colors on this are very, very good. If you've been looking for a nice Haris for your living room or in some room in your house that could take a rug this size, do look at this, especially if you're within driving distance of Doyle's, because shipping these is quite expensive. But if you could go pick the thing up, you're going to make out on it. And all you need is a rug pad. And a rug pad for this online, you can pick them up for probably about, we just bought one for the Turkoman carpet I bought, and I think it was $105 for about a 6 by 8. They're very inexpensive. So you buy that and they ship the pad to your house, you're in business. All right. And this is a reminder also of this sale coming up. This is at Dumouchel's out in the Midwest. This is the sale that has the Rockefeller plates in it. And there's 2 of them in the sale. These are very, very good ones. And this sale is coming up on the 16th, just barely a week from today. All right. And over in Dreweatts, over in England, they have a sale coming up. And there's not a lot of Asian stuff in this one sale on the 23rd. But there's a very nice lot of framed pith paintings here of birds. So if you're an aviary, you enjoy birds. This is a pretty nifty lot, and they're all framed and ready to hang. Unbelievably decorative. You can make a wall out of them in a room. They measure around, what are these? These are 33, they're basically a little over a foot by 15 inches each. 33 centimeters. So that would be roughly 13 and a half by 17 inches each, and you got a whole stack of them, all ready to go in nice looking frames, nice silver frames, and nicely matted on top of it. And they have the traditional blue cotton liner within the mat, and then these nice looking white mats with beveled silver frames. Very attractive. All right, and also in another sale coming up at Dreweatts, this is this is the same sale, the 23rd, is this very nice Kangxi Amari dish with a rather unusual pattern. When I first saw it, I thought it might be Japanese because of the way it's laid out. But it's an interesting courtyard scene here with this building off to the side, and then you have this sort of zigzagged wall going around a garden with an entrance door and all this. It's a very nice scene. It's very appealing, and the colors look good. And the back of the plate, it's Kangxi dish. There you have it. That footroom and that decoration and the appearance of the glaze. It's Kangxi, and it's pretty good size. It's 31 centimeters, a little over a foot in diameter. The estimate's very reasonable, 200 to 400 pounds, with a 100-pound opening bid. And there are only 4 people watching it right now. So you might want to bookmark that. They are on Live Auctioneers. This popped up. This is coming up also on the 23rd, a little over 2 weeks from now at Leland Little. They've got a sale coming up on that date with some all kinds of decorative art and stuff. There's a fair bit of China trade and export and rose mandarin and rose medallion in there. But they have this bowl, and it caught my eye. I just thought this was a very interesting bowl with these giant, oversized, out-of-scale flowers on them. This beautiful peony. This looks like an 18th century bowl to me, from what I'm seeing. But a very unusual pattern on it. There's the bottom of it, and it looks like a good bowl. Could be early 19th century, but it looks 18th century in a lot of ways. But it has peaches and persimmons and fruits and so forth on it. It's very attractive. It's a nice looking bowl, and it measures. It's pretty good size. It's 11 1/4 inches in diameter. It's got they estimate 50 to 25,000 there. They let the audience decide how much things are worth. But I think it's probably should bring somewhere in the $600 to $900 range or $800 to $1,200 range. It could bring more because some of these overscaled decorated punch bowls lately have done awfully well. So we'll see. Right now there are 6 people watching it, but the auction's in 2 weeks. All right, and also in the same sale as this is a very nice embroidery with the carp in the center and these mountain scenes. It's just a nice piece of needlework with auspicious fruit and bats and symbols all around it and so forth. It's a nice example, and it based on the surface of it and the appearance of there, to give you an idea of the size, it's pretty good size. Needs a frame. It is 25 by 37 inches, so it's 2 feet by a little over 3 feet in length. So it's a nice big piece of fabric. How did they date it? They just dated it as 19th century. It is absolutely 19th century, and probably early 19th century. It's got a very good look to it. I like the fish in the middle. Of course, we live in Gloucester, so everything around here is about the fish. We're going out tonight to have very good seafood dinner, actually, at the best seafood place in Gloucester, which is called Lobsterland, if you've ever been up here. And it's spelled lobster, Lobsta. And they have fantastic food. It's run by a pal of ours, Corey and his family run it. At any rate, we're going there for an early dinner. So you have not that early. We're going at 7 o'clock. I guess that's sort of evening. Very nice looking silk. And then hopping along over to this is coming up on the 26th. This is a sale that just popped up this week at Tremont outside of Boston in Sudbury. And they have this. This is a nice Chinese export. Well, they called it an industrial seam. I say it looks well. I don't know what they're moving. They look like they're moving what are those? Barrels of some kind, something in barrels. They look like a pile of barrels here. Call it an industrial scene. It's a marinescape with these wonderful rocky outcroppings going around it, and it's a nice early painting. This looks like a late 18th century painting to me. The colors, the way they're drawn, the figures are drawn, and it's fairly small, and it's in this very attractive ebonized and gilt frame right here, and it measures. It's not a great big painting. It's 7 by 8 inches overall, including the frame, but it's very attractive visually. And the estimate is quite reasonable, $500 to $700. I'm going to bet it goes for a bit less than that. I'm just going to, unless a China trade collector in the Boston area sees it, then they'll pay 6 or 7 or 800 for it probably. But if not, it could go through for 400, 500 or so. You never know with these, but this is a nice looking picture. And they don't say where it came from. But this is a pretty classic export type of painting, but very nicely framed. And then hopping along over to this is coming up at Thomaston Place in Maine in early November. Is this very nice? They have a series of sales. As you know, if you're familiar with Thomaston, Caza is the owner, and when he runs sales, he usually does 2 or 3 days of sales, because it's up in Thomaston, Maine. It's not far from Portland. It's not that far up. It's not a long haul. If you're in Boston, you can get to Thomaston, Maine in an hour and a half. It's not a big deal getting up there. They're about 30 minutes north of Portland. It's a very pretty town too. So if you've never been to Thomaston, Maine, I suggest you take the ride. But he's running a 3-day sale this time around. And the second day, I believe, is the 7th. There's some very nice Japanese pieces, some Chinese things too, but there's also some very nice Japanese things. And this caught my eye. This has obviously been outside. This vase somebody's used this on a patio or something, so it's got this great surface of a Japanese bronze vase with a dragon and fully articulated on the body, and then this very attractive rocky bottom here. There's a good detailed shot of the dragon. Lots of nice patina on this from being outdoors. Absolutely great. And if you bought this, put it right on your own patio. It's already been patinated, and it's got turtles. It's got a tortoise on the. Come back to it here. It's got rocks with little turtles crawling around on the base. It's absolutely charming. There's another one over there. Very, very nice little bronze. Or I don't know. It's not that little actually. It's 27 inches. So should not say it's little. Yeah, it's 26 inches tall. It's a pretty good sized bronze. Very good looking. $800 to $1,000 estimate. $250 opening bid. That seems pretty reasonable. And right now it's just 3 people watching it. Now it's almost a month away, but if you like Japanese stuff, you want to bookmark it. The other thing that's in the sale, and I thought this was a fantastic painting, and it's got a very, very, very modest estimate of $300 to $400. This is a big painting. It is 38 by 58 inches in length. I think that's the overall size of it. This is a very attractive. It's Japanese. He said possibly Japanese, and I agree with that. It is Japanese, and it's old. This is a nice old painting. For the surface, it looks like it was done probably during the early to mid 18th century. But the colors are very, very appealing. The dragon is very ferocious looking. All of it is, it's just a very good package, and it's got these swirling cloud backgrounds like you see on lots of Japanese prints and so forth, and they're done sort of in a large scale, and the frame is perfectly fine, so you don't need to do anything. I always say, consider the frame, the cost of the frame when you're looking at how much to spend. This thing is framed, and it's a decent, perfectly good frame. Looks good with the piece. It doesn't overwhelm the object. And to go into a frame shop to have this frame made would be more than the estimate for the entire work. The cost of getting this picture reframed or having a frame done for it would be probably somewhere in the $500 to $700 range. And the estimate for the lot's only $300 to $400, and and then you got the painting. And I think the painting is probably worth $600 or $800. So it's at least $600 or $800. I think it's a great looking thing. In other words, the starting price is $50, $300 to $400. I'm going to bet this came out of an estate somewhere on the coast of Maine. Some big summer house had it.
and so forth. So very, very classic. There are some very, very good antiques on the coast of Maine. When people with some wherewithal built summer houses up there years ago, including the Rockefellers and these days, Martha Stewart, a lot of celebrities, a lot of very famous wealthy people have houses up and down the coast of Maine for the summer. It's if you're wealthy and you want to show off, you go to the Hamptons or you go to Newport, where the flashy sort of crowd goes. But if you have a lot of money and you want to have a private summer and enjoy the coast, enjoy the ocean, and do all that, you go to the coast of Maine. They leave you alone up there, and that's why so many people go up there. And there are a lot of very, very well-off people that go up there. And when they go up there, guess what? They bring their antiques with them. And there's some fantastic antiques along the coast of Maine. Some of the best in the country. It's pretty amazing. I've seen some of the houses. And then you have, this is also in the sale. This very nice Hirado beaker with a reticulated body. Looks like a Meiji period example. Nice dragons on it. The base looks good. You want to get a condition report on these because as you know, if you buy Hirado, you know that it has all these little breakable little edges that can get damaged. So you want to get a pretty good condition report on this. It looks pretty good from what I can see, but you still want to get the condition report. It's estimated at just $400 to $600, which is very reasonable. It measures 10 inches in height, and these pieces generally come apart and they're in sections, as most of you know. But this is a very nice looking piece of Hirado. So if you're a Hirado buyer, you want to check that out. The other thing in the sale is this. Very nice Japanese folding screen. It's estimated at $1,500 to $2,000. It's an early screen. It looks like it's at least 18th century, maybe a little bit older. And hit the wrong button. There we go. There we go. This is a very nice Japanese landscape scene. Good colors. The gilding looks good. A little bit of edge roughness in along some of the folds, but not bad at all. Not bad at all for a screen of this age. And the mountain and rock and the gathering scene here and all this all looks very good. Very attractive. It measures about 57 inches tall, so it's fairly tall screen. It's almost a little under 6 feet. So it's a good sized screen, and it measures 55 high and 142 inches wide. So it's a pretty big screen, but it would look terrific hanging on a wall with a light over it. You could flatten it out. It would be spectacular. It would make a room. And the estimate, like I said, I think is very reasonable. $1,500 to $2,750 opening bid. All right, and it could go very reasonably. The next sale you want to keep an eye on, and this sale is closing also, we're back to the 15th again, this is the Malay Brothers, has a 3-day sale coming up, and there's a scattering of Asian art through all of it. And Malay Brothers, as you know, they do a good job with their sales. They do a good job with their descriptions, and they get things from interesting collections. And this particular thing comes from the collection of Iris Apfel, the famous fashionista woman who just died a year or so ago. She was, 100 years old. Anyway, there's a bunch of things out of her collection in here, including some very nice Chinese things. Good bits. There's a bunch of these mirrors, these magnifying glass mirrors. I think there's 4 of them in this sale. And then there is this vase. Now, I had a couple of inquiries about this vase. I should mention that I've had 3 so far. There are 29 people watching this because it seems to be garnering some excitement. And all 3 of the people that put it in the identification and the preview assistant asked me, "Is this an 18th century vase?" Because it has on the bottom what's left of a Qin lung mark, and it is not. This is a Republic period Celadon or late Qing Celadon. All right, the roughness on the bottom, the way the mark is done, especially this character right there, is done in the classic way. They did them in the late 19th and early 20th century. It's a perfectly good looking vase. It's actually quite well potted. It's got a very nice shape to it. There's nothing wrong with the pot, but it is absolutely not a Qinlong example. Okay, and so bid accordingly. But when people emailed me, they were pretty excited. Well, I can understand why. The estimate is I think sort of in the range. I think it's going to go over it probably at $300 to $500. I'm going to bet this brings $600 to $800 because there's so much interest in it. And it measures 12 inches in height It's just a nice looking thing. It was obviously made into a table lamp at one point of its life, which I completely understand. Remember when they were converting these into table lamps back in the day, when a lot of them were being drilled, was in the 1920s and 30s. And porcelains that were produced at the end of the Qing dynasty in particular, and the early Republic period, were drilled routinely because they weren't even old. They were new. Even Guangzhou Marken period jars and vases were drilled routinely because they weren't considered to be from a period of any merit artistically among the Chinese porcelain experts of the day. There were lots of porcelain experts that back in the 20s said, I think it was Hobson or somebody said there were no porcelains made after the end of the Chai Qing period were worth considering, with only minor exceptions in the Daguan era, which ended in 1850. All right, so by 1875 and 1900, 1920, when these pieces were being made, they were just considered just the way we look at contemporary reproductions are, what they're worth today. All right, it's the same psychology. So they drilled them. They drilled them and made lots and lots and lots of table lamps. They drilled earlier pieces too, Wanli jars in particular. But they drilled lots and lots and lots of these for the interior decorator market. Yamanaka Company famously had the storefronts with today jars that you would love to own that were all lamped, and vases that were all lamped, lined up like cordwood, all ready to go for the interior decorator market, because there was a shortage of good-looking table lamps back then. There were no factories really making any worth looking at. So, anyway, that's long story short. And this one was a designer, and she had a lot of influence over decor and whatnot. And I'm sure she bought it just because she liked the shape and the form, and wasn't that concerned about the age of it. But anyway, it's not Qinlong. I'll just leave it there. All right. Also in the sale is this, and for some reason they're calling this this is the same sale, pair of Monkey King jars. I'm not sure why they're calling them Monkey King jars. These look like Guangzhou Pu vases to me, and they're awfully nice. They're nice. They're 19th century examples. These are quite attractive. If you're a collector of those, it's the melon form with the fairly standard, the flush mount lids on them. Most of these were made sort of toward the end of the 19th century, late Qing. These are very nice. They have 47 bidders on them already because they're pretty good size. They're 13 inches tall, which is a nice size for a pair of jars. They have a 300 to 500 estimate, which I think they're going to blow through, and expect them to bring probably $800 to $1,200 at least. I wouldn't be surprised if they brought more than that. We've seen single Guangzhou Pu jars of this type bring 1,000 by themselves, but you never know today. You never know. It's so unpredictable. But at any rate, if you like these Familrose Guangzhou Pu jars, you want to look at these. And then also in this is back up in Thomaston, Maine again. I just spotted these before I did the video. Nice looking pair of cloisonné jars. Now they're dating them as late 19th, early 20th century. I think they're a little older than that. I think these are probably mid-19th century, but they'd been drilled on the bottoms. The bases were drilled. Somebody had made these into lamps, which I could completely see the appeal. There are the bases, but they're that heavy sort of copper alloy bronze body that they didn't do a lot of really in the early 20th century. The metal was gotten very thin by then. These look heavy, and they look fairly thick too. If you look at the drill hole in the bottom on this one. The base it's got some real thickness to it, some real weight to these. So I think they're probably a little older than is indicated. They're estimated at $500 to $700. They are 12 inches in height, as I recall. Yeah, 12 and a half inches tall. $100 starting price. These are nice looking. If you like cloisonné, or you're looking for a pair of cloisonné vases that you'd like to make into table lamps, these are all drilled. You're all ready to go. All you got to do is fit a top on them and get a couple of shades and put them in a nice living room with a good-looking oriental rug, some attractive mahogany furniture, a Chesterfield sofa with a bit of leather and nice tufting. These will look great. At any rate, that's my decorating tip. Also in the sale is this Kirin on a Meiji period or late Edo period charger. But it's a very nice pattern. And what caught my eye on this is that the shading of the blue on this plate is exceptional. The delicate shading, the gradient of the shading of the blue, when you look at it very, very carefully, up in here. It's extremely three-dimensional, the coloring, how the artist did this. The shading on this is outstanding. And this isn't the kind of shading you will ever really see on 19th century, late 19th century Chinese blue and white. You won't see it. This level of sophistication, you only see it on the Japanese stuff. Very, very nice. There's the back of it, loaded with those, the classic spur marks. Now, this is a pretty good sized plate too. It's 21 3/4 inches diameter. It's a big plate. It's a very big plate. The estimate is for nothing, $300 to $400 with a $50 opening bid. If you're looking for a really attractive piece of Amari or reed ware from Japan, that's probably a pretty good choice. All right, and the last thing I'm going to talk about is this very nice Chinese silk embroidery. 19th century, it measures 19 by 60 inches. So it's a little under 2 feet wide or tall, but almost 5 feet in length. So this is a wall. You get a wall out of this. And the workmanship looks quite good. The decorations are nice and crisp. You notice how strong the blue is on it still. It's got a little bit of fading to the colors. But overall, this looks pretty good. You want to get a condition report on it and find out if it's laid down or not. That's a big thing with these. Sometimes they would glue these onto panels, and that does hurt the value. They lay them down so they stay nice and flat, because this one looks remarkably flat. Now, it may just be beautifully framed, so you can't say that it is laid down. But you want to find out if it's been glued and laid down on a board, or is it just, it's just very tightly framed. But it's a beautiful thing either way. And the estimate is fairly reasonable for a big silk, $600 to $800. As you know, silk has been very strong now for a number of years. The silk buyers never seem to slow down. Anyway, that's sort of everything that's going on right now. And as I said, there are sales coming up in November. We did the video yesterday, if you haven't seen it yet, on the sale of the Hyde Park antique shop in New York, they were one of the best antique dealers in the city. There's some very nice English furniture in there. Of course, there's no reserves in the sale, but there are also some very good pieces of China trade. There's about 15 or so, as I recall, China trade lots in that auction. So if you're looking for some interesting China trade and you're in the Boston area, the New York area rather, excuse me, you want to check that auction out. It's a good looking sale. It's at Sotheby's. The video is should be right near this one on YouTube if you want to go watch it if you've missed it. And that's about it. So thanks for watching. Have a wonderful fall weekend. It's very nice today. It was terrible here 2 days ago, and we finally got a little rain. We haven't had any rain in a while, and yesterday was a gorgeous day, and this weekend we've got things we're doing around the house. Last weekend I stained our deck again. We have a lower deck in the yard that has to be restained because of the ocean about every 2 years, I guess, because the new stains don't hold up worth a darn. If any of you have stained any decks or furniture in the last few years, tell me how fast it wears out. I was horrified. Anyway, that has nothing to do with any of this. I just thought I'd throw it in. Have a good week. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't, and we'll see you next time around. All right, and we're going to try to do something on that rug sale, and there's a couple of things we're working on. All right, see you next time. Bye-bye.